SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam.
Hello students, my name is Ishan Shinolikar and today I will be discussing the definitions of economics part 1. Let us start with the objectives of this session. So by the end of this session, you students will be able to understand the evolution of economic thought from classical to welfare oriented definitions. Identify the key features of Adam Smith's and Alfred Marshall's definitions of economics. Analyze the relevance of wealth creation and human welfare in economic decision making. Apply economic principles such as division of labor, marginal utility and consumer behavior to real world business scenarios. And finally, to evaluate the role of ethics and social responsibility in shaping modern economic and business practices. First, let us start with the introduction. Economics is far more than just a set of theories about money, markets and prices. It is a living, evolving discipline that studies how individuals, businesses, governments and societies make choices under conditions of scarcity. These choices involve allocating limited resources such as time, money, labor and raw materials to satisfy unlimited wants and needs. From the production and distribution of goods to issues of unemployment, inflation and international trade, economics provides a structured way of thinking about real world problems. It answers fundamental questions like what should be produced, how it should be produced and for whom it should be produced. Over the centuries, the scope of economics has expanded in response to changing societal values, economic systems and technological progress. Early economists were concerned with the creation of wealth and working of markets. Later, thinkers began focusing on human welfare, individual behavior and social justice. More recently, economics has embraced data science, behavioral psychology and sustainability as core areas of study. Each definition of economics, from Adam Smith's emphasis on wealth to modern approaches incorporating human behavior and digital data, reflects the economic challenges and philosophical outlooks of its time. These definitions are not merely academic, but they shape the way businesses operate, how governments design policies and how societies function. Now, why is this so important to learn for the BBA students? For students of business administrations, economics provides the intellectual foundation for decision making in every functional area, whether it is marketing, finance, operations or human resources. Understanding the evolution of economic thought helps students to grasp the rationale behind business models and strategies, to evaluate market trends and consumer behavior, to make efficient and ethical choices under constraints, appreciate the interplay between business and society. For example, understanding scarcity and opportunity cost helps in budgeting and resource allocation. Knowing consumer welfare and utility supports pricing strategies. And insights into growth and investment planning guide long-term decision making. This session explores how the definition of economics has changed from Adam Smith's classical view to modern interdisciplinary perspectives over two parts. In doing so, it helps students to see how economics is not static but responsive to the needs of business and society. A vital realization for anyone aspiring to lead or manage in a complex, globalized world. Let us start with the classical definition given by Adam Smith in 1776. Adam Smith, often regarded as the father of economics, was the first to formalize economics as a distinct field of study. In his seminal work, The Wealth of Nations, he sought to understand how nations become prosperous and what policies or institutions promote wealth creation. Smith's approach marked a turning point in economic thought, moving beyond philosophical speculation to a systematic analysis of production, exchange, and trade. His definition focuses on understanding the sources and mechanisms through which national wealth is created, maintained, and expanded. This was particularly relevant during the Industrial Revolution, when countries like Britain were transforming from agrarian economies to industrial and commercial powerhouses. Now, what are the features of this definition? First, it focuses on wealth creation. Smith viewed economics primarily as science of wealth generation. He was concerned with how societies could improve their productive capacity and increase the material well-being of their citizens. Wealth is not merely about money or gold, but about the real goods and services a nation could produce and consume. The more productive a society, the greater its capacity to generate wealth. In terms of business relevance, for BBA students, this highlights the importance of efficiency, productivity, and value creation in business strategy. Businesses contribute to national wealth by producing goods and services, employing people, and paying taxes. Looking at the next objective, that is emphasis on production and trade, Smith argued that production is the true source of wealth, and trade facilitates the distribution of wealth both domestically and internationally. He promoted specialization and division of labor, where each worker focuses on specific tasks. He believed in free markets where goods are exchanged voluntarily without restrictions. In terms of business relevance, this insight forms the basis for modern production systems and global trade. Understanding this helps students evaluate decisions related to outsourcing, supply chain management, and market expansion. Now moving on to the invisible hand concept. One of Smith's famous contribution is the idea of the invisible hand of the market. When individuals act in their own self-interest, seeking profit, improving products, minimizing costs, they often unintentionally contribute to the greater good of the society. This decentralized decision making, guided by price signals, leads to an efficient allocation of resources. By pursuing his or her own interest, he or she frequently promotes that of the society more efficiently than when he or she really intends to promote it. For example, a baker bakes bread to earn a living, not to feed the community. Yet by selling bread, the baker fulfills a social need. In terms of business relevance, this principle supports market-based economies where business competition leads to better products, lower prices, and innovation, all benefiting the consumer. Moving on to laissez-faire philosophy, Smith advocated for minimal government intervention in economic affairs. He believed that government's role should be limited to protecting property rights, providing defense and law enforcements, creating infrastructure, that is public goods that markets cannot provide efficiently. Also, Smith warned that too much regulation could distort market forces and thus reduce efficiency. In terms of business relevance, this idea laid the groundwork for free enterprise system. Understanding this helps BBA students appreciate the ongoing debate between government regulation versus market freedom, which affects industries such as pharmaceuticals, telecommunication, and banking. For example, division of labor in a pin factory. Smith illustrated that benefits of division of labor using the example of a pin factory. One unskilled worker might produce only 1 to 20 pins per day. If production is divided into 18 distinct tasks such as drawing wire, cutting, pointing, etc., and assigned to different workers, the same workforce could produce thousands of pins on a daily basis. This example basically showcases the power of specialization. Doing one task repeatedly increases skill and speed. The importance of coordination and organization in business. How productivity improvements can significantly boost national output or wealth in this case. In terms of the modern implications, this concept underpins modern assembly line production, lean manufacturing and business process outsourcing, central ideas in operations management courses. So if we conclude this section, then Adam Smith's definition of economics was revolutionary for its time. By focusing on the wealth of nations, he introduced a framework that celebrated market efficiency, production and trade. His work laid foundation for classical economists and influenced centuries of policy and business thinking. For BBA students, Smith's idea remained directly relevant today. Understanding the motivations behind free markets, appreciating the role of self-interest and competition, learning how to organize firms and maximizing productivity, Smith's legacy lives on in every business model, market strategy and economic policy that values efficiency, innovation and individual enterprise. Now we move on to the welfare definition given by Alfred Marshall in 1890. As per the definition, economics is a study of mankind in the ordinary business of life. It examines that part of individual and social action which is most closely connected with the attainment and use of the material requisites of well-being. This definition was given in Principles of Economics in 1890 by Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall, a leading British economist of the late 19th century, brought a human and welfare oriented approach to economics. His definition marked a significant departure from the wealth centric classical view of Adam Smith. Marshall believed that economics should focus on people and not just the wealth. According to him, wealth is not the end in itself but a means to the end, which is human welfare. He recognized that the value of economic activity lies in its ability to improve living standards, meet basic needs, and enhance quality of life. Let us look at the features of this definition. First is that it is a human-centric approach. Marshall defined economics as a social science primarily concerned with the well-being of individuals in society. While wealth is still important, it was no longer the central objective. He shifted the focus from the accumulation of wealth to how wealth improves human life. He emphasized ethical and moral considerations in economic activity. The study of economics is valuable not because it teaches us how to make money, but because it teaches us how to make a better use of it. In terms of business relevance, this approach encourages future managers and entrepreneurs to view profit not just as an ultimate goal, but as a tool to improve lives, serve communities, and contribute to sustainable development. Second is the emphasis on material welfare. Marshall's definition stresses the role of economics in promoting material well-being, the basic physical necessities like food, clothing, housing, and education. He focused on how people earn incomes, how they spend, and how their consumption contributes to satisfaction or utility. He separated economic activities focused on material welfare from non-economic activities such as love, charity, religion, and so on, which he considered outside the scope of economics. For example, a grocery store owner isn't just providing goods for profit, they are helping ensure access to basic necessities, contributing to the material welfare of the community. In terms of business relevance, BBA students must understand the link between consumer needs, value delivery, and long-term business sustainability. This view supports modern ideas like customer-centric marketing and inclusive growth. Third feature is marginal utility and consumer behavior. Marshall was instrumental in introducing the concept of marginal utility, the additional satisfaction of a consumer that a consumer derives from consuming one more unit of a good or service. This idea helped explain consumer decision making and price determination in the market. He merged demand side behavior, that is utility, with supply side costs, forming the basis of microeconomics. For examples, why do diamonds, though non-essential, cost more than water? Marshall used the marginal utility principle to explain such a paradox. In terms of business relevance, understanding consumer behavior is essential for pricing strategies, product development, and marketing. Marginal analysis also plays a role in evaluating cost-benefit decisions in business. Fourth feature is partial analysis, which is a part of microeconomics. Marshall focused on individual markets and economic agents rather than economy as a whole. This approach, called partial equilibrium analysis, allowed for a detailed understanding of specific factors. He introduced concepts such as price, elasticity, supply and demand curves and consumer surplus. He viewed the economy as a system made up of interrelated but separable parts. For example, a clothing brand deciding to reduce prices must consider how sensitive its consumers are to price changes. This price elasticity of demand, a concept introduced by Marshall, was very critical. Microeconomic tools are also essential for day-to-day business decisions, setting price, optimizing output, assessing demand and entering markets. Moving on to the next feature, that is ethics and social welfare. Marshall believed that economics must be linked to ethics. He encouraged economists and business leaders to consider the social consequences of economic decisions. He advocated for better wages, education and working conditions for the laborers. He believed that ultimate goal of economic progress is human development. For example, companies investing in economic or employee welfare, community development or eco-friendly practices embody Marshall's ideals. Now let us look at the case study of the Tata Group in India. This is a hypothetical case study for understanding. The Tata Group is known not just for its business excellence but also for its ethical leadership, employee welfare, policies and philanthropy. From building hospitals and schools to promoting inclusive capitalism, Tata exemplifies the Marshallian approach to businesses. In terms of business relevance, this approach is central to CSR, that is corporate social responsibility, ethical leadership and sustainable business models, which are increasingly expected in today's global business environments. So if we conclude this section, then Alfred Marshall's definition of economics placed human beings and welfare at the center of economic analysis. His contributions laid the groundwork for modern microeconomics, combining theoretical precision with real-world relevance. For BBA students, Marshall's welfare definition is especially meaningful because it promotes ethical and consumer-focused business practices. It helps in understanding market mechanisms and consumer psychology, and it also aligns economics with broader goals of well-being and sustainability, not just profits. Marshall reminds us that economics is not just about making money but also about making life better, a valuable lesson for every business leader. So the overall conclusion of this session, so as we saw the two definitions of Adam Smith and Alfred Marshall, it may seem that these are very old definitions and might not have any relevance today. However, these are the foundations on which the recent definitions are based. We came across many features of both the definitions which are relevant even today. So for any student who is studying economics, it becomes even more important for them to particularly understand these definitions, especially for the business administration students, because they will be dealing with processes that are directly associated with consumer well-being or consumer welfare. When you have such consumer-oriented processes, the definitions of economics, right from where it began, hold even more importance. When we talk about these definitions, it is not just for the purpose of learning for the students, but to develop a perspective. Such perspectives help the students in understanding how the world is functioning, how it has been functioning in the past, and what could be the trajectory of the functioning in the future. Whenever we are estimating or predicting anything for the future, we typically tend to look at the past. The methodology of economics, as we have learnt earlier as well, is that we use the past or historical data in order to project certain predictions in the future. Understanding these definitions rather than learning could help the students in order to look at the past, see what is the inherent behavior that human beings or consumers in general have always followed, and how that could happen in the future. For example, recently a lot of words that are being used in terms of economics along with its interdisciplinary connotation is data driven society, artificial intelligence and sustainability. All these things are nothing but a certain decision making at the level of consumers and businesses. Once we understand what economics is and how welfare of consumers happens on the basis of their behavior and decision making, it can help us to develop new theories and new definitions for the field, and that's how the field evolves. Adam Smith and Alfred Marshall's definitions may be backdated or may seem a little too easy to understand or a little too direct, but they serve the essential foundation to develop new definitions that are the modern ones and new theories that have come up for the future. So this will really help the business administration students to think about the processes of businesses and the consumer decision making, and can come up with not just the optimal outcomes for their own self, that is for profits, but also for the society and the consumers. I hope you understood the link between these definitions and the real world scenarios and enjoyed the session. Thank you so much.